I'm a Destiny player that put 40 hours into the Destiny 1 beta, and this is what I think about Witch Queen. I've been off and on with Destiny since the beta came out. From the very beginning, I saw the beta as a lot of potential and could make a great game. Then when the full game released, it was basically the exact same thing as the beta, and I don't think I realized right then how bad that was. Me and my friends were talking about how different Destiny 1 used to be, and I can't believe that we thought that game had a lot of content. Regardless, we played it anyway. I played it for hours and hours and hours, all the way up to Crota's End Raid. I even played through the Dark Below. But then I noticed the flaws with Destiny 1. The repetitive nature, the lack of content. So I quit. I quit for a little while. I skipped 1 or 2 DLCs. Then I came back for the Taken King. Now the Taken King was a huge expansion for Destiny 1. It changed a lot of things about the gameplay, it gave a lot of interesting story, and a fantastic raid to boot. I had seen the hype, I felt the hype itself, I know Destiny was a game that I held dear in my heart, I wanted it to be better, and the Taken King was great. I played that for a long period of time, but then it got old again. So I quit again. And I don't think that I came back to Destiny until Destiny 2. Looking at the trailers and the gameplay footage, it seemed pretty close to what Destiny 2 looked like and felt like, which were its strong suits. But it changed the things that I thought that Destiny needed to change. It gave some semblance of a good story, expanded upon the existing foundation of the abilities and subclasses. But at the end of the day, it didn't change enough for me. So after playing for a long time and doing the Leviathan raid there, I stopped playing again, not really knowing what was wrong. I just didn't have the motivation. Then Destiny 2 Forsaken came out, pulling at your heartstrings and actually giving you a story that you somewhat cared about. Not being afraid to kill off certain characters, similar to the Game of Thrones mentality. And then halfway through that story, they took a different turn. And while the voice acting and the looks and the feel and the abilities were all kind of fixed and working well together, they still haven't hooked me on the story at the very end. For me, I look back on this campaign just so I could stay a little bit up to date before recording this, and I felt the same things that I felt when I was playing. That it started off very, very strong, but let me down halfway through. The concept was there. The build-up was there, but the execution on the latter half of that campaign didn't do it for me. But I stayed on, I still played the game quite a bit, got pretty into it. But then I left, because of the same reasons before. Progression was convoluted and drawn out. And then Beyond Light came out, promising new subclasses and utilizing the darkness, going beyond the light. I thought maybe it would introduce certain aspects of the story that could twist our views of the Traveler and make us really, really think about what we're doing. Give us consequences for our actions. But that's not what we got. What we got with Beyond Light was a semi-interesting story, but a pretty cool new subclass. The issues with introducing this subclass is the convoluted and drawn-out nature of being able to access all of your abilities. So I didn't play very much of that. I got enough unlocks to feel like I had played the game, but it came to a point where I felt like I was coming back to this game as a job. And now, several years after first picking up the Destiny 1 beta, loading into the old school Cosmodrome and killing that fallen walker, Destiny 2 Witch Queen releases. Now, there's been a lot of hype behind this expansion. It promises to do a lot of things. My job here is to see if they delivered and if they can finally hook me onto this game that I so very much want to see do well. Campaign starts off on a high note, giving you the option of a campaign difficulty. You may have had a heroic version beforehand, but this difficulty setting of normal versus legendary makes an actual impact on your progression and gives you rewards that you feel make it worth your time to actually go through this tougher path to the same destination, essentially completely doubling the loot you get for completing the campaign. On top of that, it's boosting you at the very end to a higher light level than those who chose to go down the normal route. It rewards people for doing the harder content in a meaningful way. And the cherry on the tippity top of this sundae of difficulty settings, the difficulty is actually difficult, and not for the reasons that you would think. Although it does make the bosses and minions seem a lot more bullet spongier as a form of difficulty. The main difficulty comes from the respawn restricted areas, where they simply give you 1 revive per teammate and 40 seconds in total to get those revives. And then it's not like previous Destinies where maybe the 2-man can pull it off at the very end and you can kind of clutch it. This mode doesn't care about your feelings. It just completely restarts from the beginning of the respawn restricted if one player cannot make it to the end. I cannot commend Bungie enough for the design of that difficulty. Moving on to the story. I'm no lorehound on Destiny, and I didn't necessarily understand everything that was going on. But what I can tell you is that the story for a returning player that started off in Destiny 1 was fulfilling the entire way through. In the beginning, there's a lot of unknowns. You're trying to figure out a lot of things, and then you find out that you're being deceived and lied to, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of a twist in the middle and then a big twist in the middle, and then at the very end you have probably one of the most difficult campaign boss fights on legendary mode that I have ever experienced in Destiny. And it's all very, very well done, with mechanics put into almost every single boss fight that you have to learn that remind me of the dungeons that Destiny has released over the years. The dungeons being one of my favorite pieces of content that Bungie has ever released. And my main complaint about Beyond Light was that I couldn't really experience the full power of this subclass stasis when it released, because I had to go through a huge convoluted grind fest just to be able to use all of the abilities. I don't mind leveling up and doing all that, but the quest steps that you had to complete in order to actually be able to utilize stasis to its full potential seemed convoluted and drawn out to me. With Witch Queen, they have now decided to revamp at the start the Void subclass, similar to what the Stasis subclass looked like, but they don't require you to go through another grind to be able to do it. You simply load into the Witch Queen, it gives you a tutorial of the new Void subclasses, and you're off to the races. So I commend Bungie on that. They updated abilities and made it more worthwhile to choose certain subclasses and make it more interesting with more customization options. They did a very, very good job with that. They introduced new exotics that are very interesting, new exotic quests that are interesting and story driven. And on the horizon we have 2 raids and 2 dungeons coming out within the next year, and I see the future for Destiny 2 very, very bright. I plan on making a lot more content on Destiny. I am actually enjoying my time with Destiny 2 for the first time since Destiny Taken King released. There are a lot more improvements that I'm not listing in this video here, but my point that I want to get across is that I firmly believe that Destiny 2 Witch Queen has presented the opportunity to be the best time for new players to join the game and for returning players to start enjoying the game that they think that they could love. And I have a lot of hope that Bungie is going to continue making these meaningful changes and introduce meaningful content that is story-driven and impactful. If you enjoyed this kind of video and you want to see more content like this from me, like and subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one.